Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, all of you, for coming here and providing your expertise. In life, it is often a wise strategy to hope for the best and yet plan for the worst. And that is especially true in the national security context. So I would welcome the wisdom of this panel on what the implications would be for our national security if the worst occurs, and what the best avenues we have to alleviate those implications. And in particular, General Shelton, I'd like to start with you. Assume that conditions with and relations with Russia deteriorate substantially. I hope that they don't, but assume that they do. Assume that Putin adopts a position of maximum belligerence and picks up the phone and instructs all engine exports end tomorrow. What would the implications be for U.S. national security if that decision were made?
Senator, that as we look at that as one of the number of scenarios we've considered, we think as a minimum that would be about $1.5 billion. We think that would stretch out launches. We've got to ramp up the production of our Delta factory, which would take some time. So that would stretch out launches maybe 12 to 20 months in some cases. For the heavier missions, maybe even 48 months. So that puts constellations at risk. And the ones that we're talking about, the heaviest ones, are our most significant constellations. So it is dire. If that should happen, there is no question that inside this manifest that we're considering right now, there would be serious national security implications.
And to what extent could our existing stockpile of engines reasonably be stretched to cover the needs? How long could we expect it to cover our needs?
Sir, we have 15 engines left right now. So that would, depending on how we chose to meter those out, I think Mr. Lightfoot said in his opening statement that we would have to meet nationally to decide how we would allocate those engines. But that's all part of this set of scenarios that we're considering right now. We don't know the exact impact until we get together and decide how we would allocate those 15.
On best case, are we talking a year? Are we talking 2 years? How long would you reasonably expect the stockpile to be able to meet the needs?
We could meter that out over a number of years, depending on what you decided to spend those engines on.
Mr. Lightfoot, let me ask you the same hypothetical, maximum belligerence, but let's assume that Mr. Putin didn't just say engine exports. He also said the Soyuz is shut down. No more Americans will have access to our launch capacity for manned launch. What would the impact be on the space station and on our needs?
So I think we would clearly have to go assess what that would do to us from access to station. To date, we have seen no change in the behaviors at all. We continue to launch Soyuz and put people up there. I want to make sure that's really clear, regardless of Rogozin's comments. Our teams are working together with the Russians very well to continue the space station operations. Clearly, the International Space Station is our stepping stone to our larger exploration program. So we would have to go look at the implications associated with that, and it would be significant from that standpoint. And then we'd work in.
Can you briefly describe, if it was cut off, what the implications would be in your best judgment?
Yeah, we would want to accelerate our commercial crew activity so that we're launching from here, from the U.S. from that standpoint, and let our providers, let our partners that have bid on that proposal now, the one that we have in selection, let them come forward and show us how they would provide the access to the International Space Station that we need. But it's more than just the launch to the station. The Russians also operate key components on the station just like we do for them. So that would be the issues that we would have to go assess kind of one by one.
Well, in light of those concerns, both with engines and manned launch capacity, if a decision were made to proceed forward with maximum speed towards acquiring the domestic capacity to fill these needs, realistically, how quickly could we do so, and how many commercial enterprises possess the skill and expertise to be credibly able to meet that need?
I'll start. If you look at the only provider that's really in a serious certification process right now is SpaceX. if everything goes extremely well, a very green light schedule, by December of this year, we could have them certified. If you look at Atlas 5, there are 10 configurations of Atlas 5 due to the various upper stages, strap-on solids, those sorts of things. SpaceX, there are 7 of those 10 configurations that they could not launch. They don't have the lift capacity for that. They have a heavy vehicle planned in the future, but that's down the road a ways. So that means that SpaceX could compete for some of those. We would need to ramp up Delta IV production to accommodate the rest. So we're probably looking at, again, 12 to 48 months slip on some launches.
Mr. Lightfoot, anything to add on the manned launch?
No, I think we would work with these guys to figure out which critical missions we needed to get done and how we would work them into the manifest, but we surely expect a significant impact.
But how quickly could we fill
On the
that
manifest?
capacity?
At the current proposal that we have, we think we can be flying by 2017, putting humans into space from our location. So if I don't know if there's much we can accelerate at this point because of the way the process works, but that's what we would prefer to do, is just keep the funding for the commercial crew program going so that we could meet the 2017 date.
Thank you very much.
Be prepared to